Welcome to Heart Matter, a podcast about purpose and connection. I am Tina Hensey. I'm an Akashic Records practitioner, medium, and your host. I hope you enjoy today's episode. Hi, and so I am Tina Hensey, and today we've got Kelly Jean Anderson on the show today, and I'm so glad that we can make the time to it just fell right into place today and make it happen. So welcome, Kel.
Thanks, Tina. I'm so glad to be here. I love you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. So now, are you going by Kelly or Kelly Jean mostly?
Names are a funny thing. It just depends on, I love Kelly Jean. Kelly I've had my whole life and I'm kind of over it, right? Like I've had a lot of names. I've got a lot of names. And when I decided to go back to Kelly, I thought, okay, I'm going to be healthy. I'm going to use my birth name. And then I was like, oh, Kelly Jean feels a lot better. I don't know. It's cute, right? It's Kelly Jean. It's cute.
It's you. It's very
Yeah.
you, right?
Yeah. I feel like it's sweet. Like it feels nice to me. Yeah.
Good. Oh, I'm so glad. So, the reason, I love you too, and I am so inspired by you all the time, and you're always teaching me new things. And can you tell me a little bit about what you do now, and then we'll get into your story?
Okay. And also, I feel the exact same way about you.
Oh,
You've helped me through some really intense times, and I learned so much from you, especially when I was in my darkest times. So,
oh,
um,
thanks. Oh,
yeah. So what do I do? I have a beautiful life right now. For the past few years, I've had an amazing life, and I work at a place called Meditation Mount in Ojai, California, and it's a beautiful spiritual center. And I work in the office there. So I mean, it's like an office job, but it's also not like an office job because it's a meditation mount. So I work there to create programs and meditation programs and events and things like that. And I've been doing their Friday night sunset sound meditation for 4 years with a couple of other ladies. It's a beautiful experience, and if you have seen this place, it's on a mountaintop overlooking the entire Ojai Valley, and it's so beautiful. And I get to play the harmonium as the sun is setting behind the mountains. And sometimes I'm like watching the sunset, and there's like a group of like 40 people, and we're all watching the sunset, and I'm playing the harmonium, and I'm like, how did this happen? Like, how did I get to be able to do this? So I have a lot of magic in my life. I get to do that. I also I lead a lot of breathwork and sound experience healing experiences. I teach a lot of meditation classes in Ventura. A lot to do with breathing, connecting with our hearts through meditation, and vocal toning, so vibration with sound, which is like a somatic healing practice. All of these things I started doing to help myself. I got into all of this because that was what I needed to move through my trauma. And then I just started teaching. Yeah.
yeah, that's great. Oh my gosh. It's so funny how it starts, right? Like you don't intend for all that to happen, but it's like it just starts with you working on yourself. Um, so let's go back. Let's go back to your childhood. Like where did you grow up? Like what was it like as a child? And let's start from there.
We're going way back. Okay. So
Yeah.
I was born in the Valley. I was born in Granada Hills, Tarzana, Granada Hills. And then my parents moved to Santa Clarita, as you know, is because that's where Tina and I come from, where we go back to. Um, yeah, and I grew up in Canyon Country, and I moved there in fourth grade. And my childhood was interesting. Like my family was great, and I think I thought I had it hard. I mean, I had a very privileged childhood, but I thought I had it hard. I was so sensitive. I felt so many things, and all of those things were confusing to me. I felt everybody's discomfort and everybody's emotions, as we do when we're children, and I thought it was all my fault, as we do, and I really thought that I was unwanted and unlovable and all of these things, like and there was like, even though they were, they gave me everything I wanted, they did the very best they could, which was an amazing job. And I spent a lot of my time in addiction when I was an addict, blaming my family and blaming everyone else. But I look back now and I'm like, wow, like I had a good childhood. It was tough. There were tough things. It was tough navigating the world as a sensitive child. Like, it's hard. It's hard for kids. And I felt a lot of things that I think it's hard to describe, because part of me wants to say, like, it didn't seem real to other people, but it was very real to me. So I felt a lot of things that were confusing in my body. I felt threatened a lot. I felt unsafe a lot, in public, with strangers, with other people. I felt, I could feel intentions, and I could feel, not like it's coming towards me, but I could feel people's energy, and it was scary to me. And it felt like I was tapping into adult experiences as a child. And I spent a lot of time being really scared and really shy and and terrified of certain things, like just experiences. I would find myself in experiences that were very terrifying to me, and maybe to somebody else they wouldn't see it that way, but that started a pattern in my life of these intense experiences, of being really scared, and also finding that feeling making me feel more alive. And that started super young. So that, not the best pattern, but yeah.
But it brings us to, like, and I don't know if you feel like this, but I kind of notice it's like, these experiences bring you, and you don't realize it at the time, but it's bringing you closer to who you were meant to be and how you can help other people. And I mean, you mentioned that you were in addiction, and it's like, it's sometimes people, and I spent some time in recovery, and it was like, it was like almost like a relief, right? Like, and so I don't want to put words in your mouth, but
I trust you.
when did that, so how did that unfold? I mean, did you leave home, or how did it happen?
So my neighbors are banging on the ceiling. I don't know if you heard that.
Oh,
Sorry.
no,
Okay.
no.
So, I masked for a long time. Like I also was very positive and cheery and smiley, and I put on this exterior. I've always been, not to say I was faking, but I've always been super positive about things, like really optimistic, really hopeful. And I think that is part of, like, my saving grace. Like, that is a gift, definite gift, that's gotten me through so many intense times. But like, high school was weird. I had some sexual assaults growing up, a few, in my adolescent time, and then in my teenage years, and then again after that in my young adult years. So those experiences, I didn't know what to do with. Again, I thought they were my fault. I blamed myself. I didn't tell anybody. I almost felt like, there's this thing called, like, re-victimization. Like once something happens to you, like, I never processed. I didn't even know that you were supposed to process things. I didn't know that you were supposed to feel things, like, feel the emotions. I just felt so much. I didn't want to feel anymore. So I feel like after these, the first instance started happening, there was a part of me, a deep buried subconscious part, that was gravitating towards these kind of experiences. Partially because I felt like I deserved it. And partially because there was some part of me that felt really alive when I made it through the experience. I don't know if that makes any sense. That's been something I've been struggling with for a long time. Like, why I would even consciously sometimes put myself in situations that were really dangerous. And yeah, and I keep coming back to that, like, okay, so there's a part of me that feels like I'm alive, like, oh, like I'm alive, I'm safe, I survived, like, all of these things. And so there's that pattern in my life. And then, that welcomes in, like, the urge to escape, right? Also, I mean, I'm like a quadruple Pisces.
Yeah.
You know what it's like. We like to escape. I
can't relate to that at all.
Yeah, right. I like to escape, and I did with TV. I did with I've used many things to distract myself from what was really going on inside. My feelings, my emotions, the fact that I wasn't actually speaking up for myself or supporting myself, the fact that I was abandoning myself and never like trying to take care of myself. So I started using drugs, and I had my
So-
first
Sorry,
weed.
Cal.
Oh yeah, are we frozen?
Sorry. I'm sorry.
You're okay.
Cal, can you?
I feel I'm okay. You're stuck.
Just hit one.
Okay. Uh-oh. Hmm.
And so, just continuing off of that, you felt like, you were getting into it like an escape, right? Like you were feeling very like, oh, I found something that gives me a little relief. And
Yeah. Yeah, and also I had a lot of social anxiety, right? Like it was hard for me to be around people, and I never really felt like
yeah,
didn't really feel that comfortable, like and so I just always it made my anxiety, and I would wake up in the morning with a sense of dread all the time, and that started early in my life, and it continued and got worse. And so I found that drugs helped so much at that time. Like I mean, I love them. Like I was an addict right away. Everything that I did, I wanted more of right away. And yeah, and it started with weed, and then it went to cocaine, um and during this time I was living at my parents' home, and things were it was the last year of high school. I was having problems with my family. I was rebelling a lot, and I was resentful of them because of all of these things that had happened to me that had nothing to do with them. But I felt unsafe and unprotected and unloved, unlovable. And so I resented them, and I kept it quiet, so I'm acting out and doing all these things. And it was probably scary for them, they probably didn't know what was going on. And meanwhile, I'm having big anxiety and big depression and big mood swings. Um, I was dating a guy when I was my last year of high school that was like in his mid 20s, and like, like things were I was blossoming in a path of
mm,
sexual abuse. Like that's you do, there's certain things that you do, and it's like textbook almost. And then I was still in high school, and I was teaching piano to a bunch of kids because I played piano my whole life. I was teaching piano in the morning, and then I was a stripper at night. I became a stripper for a while. I was a terrible stripper. And I'm not good at that kind of stuff. Like I wasn't good at hustling for money and doing all, like there were women who were so good at that, but I just felt I needed that feeling of attention and validation. And I needed to feel important. And for some reason that fed that for me. And that's when the cocaine started. And that was like the year we graduated from high school. That all happened.
wow.
Yeah, it was young. I was really young. And I went all in, and then I changed my name the first time, and I developed this personality that went with that name, and I didn't look back. Like I didn't, I cut off a lot of people, and
Mm,
my family and my friends, and I felt like I didn't know how to explain what was happening in me.
mhm.
So instead of stopping and thinking about it and trying to understand that maybe I had these traumatic experiences, and maybe I needed to look at those, I wasn't able to look at them, so I lied. I just started lying about everything, and that continued for 22 years. The
Yeah.
drug use, the lying, the acceleration into this, sex work, and all of that stuff. And it just got crazier and crazier. And I just felt like I was always running from something. I was always running from something, my feelings or a situation or, my past. Yeah.
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 Yeah, it just seems like it's spiraled and you didn't know, which way
Yeah.
to go. And I could hear you, you'd call me every once and again, and I could hear you. I could hear Kelly in there, and I
Mhm.
knew she was in there. And there's, when did you feel like things were getting to the point of like, you know, really bad, where you're like, God, it's like really bad, get worse than this. Like, I mean,
Well, it's weird because it that happened quite a few times. Um, like during the in my 20s, it was like somewhat manageable. I mean, I was I was with Sean. I met Sean, who was like the love of my life then.
yeah,
And we were like this rock and roll couple, and we moved to New York, and we were doing a lot of drugs, and he was an alcoholic.
yeah,
And it was a unhealthy relationship, and I loved him so much. um and so that relationship was really hard, and we were together for 14 years.
yeah.
And during that time, I tried to kill myself 5 times. I've been hospitalized many times. Um, I I also that was the time when I got involved with that company. It was like an online BDSM company that I worked for that was so intense and
Mhm.
demoralizing and horrendous. And it was so hard on my body and on my mind and my spirit. And I blocked out, I still was blocking out, I was blocking out every single thing that would happen that I would do. I would immediately block out and be like, oh, I made it through. Okay. And I would just move forward, move forward, move forward. And and, and it felt so crazy. I didn't understand why I was feeling all these intense emotions. And Sean and I were trying to create a life in New York, and that was wild. And
Mhm.
then 9/11 happened, and we were in New York, and it was like what the heck, the whole world was so crazy, and I felt so unsafe. And um yeah, and then we moved back to California, and that was shortly after was the first time I tried to kill myself. So it got really bad during my 20s. And that was all mostly with cocaine. And then I thought I ended up going to a rehab, and I thought I was okay. I thought I was going to be okay. And then I got out of rehab and I started using meth, and then it got really bad. So then the 10 years after that were really bad.
Mhm.
During this time, I was also a dominatrix, and some of that was fun and wild and thoroughly enjoyable stories to tell. But and that they can also be comical, and I see the humor in some of that now.
Mhm.
But I was hurting so bad, and I became a dominatrix because I was trying to um like fix the past trauma and like be a strong woman. And I was trying to work through that stuff without knowing that that's what I was doing. I was also, you know, victimizing, I was putting people in a situation that I had been in. But
Mhm.
it was consensual. So I was acting out things that had happened to me to other
Mhm.
people that were consenting that it was okay, but I was still acting out my trauma. It's very confusing what we do, right? Like
Gosh.
it was confusing. I was confused for a long, long time. And that was when meth was a lot. I left Sean and he liked to be called Kentucky. I left him, and I continued down the spiral. I met some really beautiful people. One of my best friends, Joey, who's my housemate now. Um I don't know if anybody's familiar with meth, but it is just the darkest drug. To me, there is nothing darker. It is like the lowest vibration, and it's like welcoming in all the lower energetic entities and energies. And that was when I really started understanding that there are such things as parasites and demons and stuff. And that's a weird thing to say, and people take that in the wrong way, but it's real. and
Yeah.
it um, and it attaches to you. It attached to me, and I just lost my humanity. I lost the ability to be compassionate and empathetic or feel at all. That's just something it does to you. Um, and I was still, there was a spark. You're right. There was a spark of me in there, a very tiny little light that I tried to hold on to. And there were so many times when I thought I would have a glimpse of reality. Like I would come out of it for a minute, and I would look around me, and I would be like, oh my God. Like I would see my friends that I loved just they were shattered and broken people, all suffering from various degrees of mental illness because of the meth. And I would be like, we have to stop. Like, this has got to stop. And then I would take another hit and I would forget for another year, you know. So that was pretty dark. I ended up homeless, and I ended up pushing everybody away, and that was how it ended, with me and my doggy, Lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's when I was calling you a lot too.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
remember the calls got more frequent,
Yeah.
and it's funny. It's like I've known a lot of addicts in my life, and it's funny, you never asked me for anything. You just always so loving. It's still in your addiction. You were very, I remember thinking, oh God, she's going to call, she's going to ask to stay with us, or she's going to ask to, I had kids at that time. I'm like,
Would never have done that to you.
oh, and you never did. You never asked a thing. You just needed a friend. And it was like, yeah, I could be that for you. I could be that for you. And you found your way, and thankfully, and you have a wonderful sister, Debbie, right? Was it Debbie
Yeah.
that kind of helped you out, let you stay there? And so, you know, somebody taking your meditation class is going to look at you feeling like, oh, she's so bright and light, and oh God, she's such a high vibe. I mean, you've done sound baths at my house before, and I have to ask this question, because you and I both know when you got clean, did you have to do some sort of like energy work on yourself, or like how did you get rid of the darkness? You know what I mean? Like, energetically speaking, you still, I mean, when someone gets clean, it doesn't mean that just because the drugs are gone, that the entities are, the attachments and the darkness is gone too. You kind of have to clean your field, as I know, with Reiki and all that. So how did you discover you had to get some sort of work done, energy work?
Yeah, I started that with you. I mean, you taught me some things. Remember, like, I was trying to detach energetically from certain people. And then when I got clean, so I didn't just get clean. Like, it was a moment where I was going to go to jail, and this would have been like the second or third time that I dealt with the law, and I was living in my car, and I had all of my stuff, and Lucky and my dog and the person I was with, who I was getting drugs from, we fell asleep in the middle of a drug deal in the car with the doors open at a gas station in Castaic. It was the weirdest. It was so trashy and horrible.
My
And we
God.
went up to the police, going, laughing at us, and like, well, this is obvious. They were, I mean, it was like, what is happening? We were so tired. I've been up for like 10 days. It was a
Oh my
long
God.
time, and I was so sad. And it turns out, one of the police officers went to high school with us. It was a weird moment. I don't even know his name, but he recognized me and he knew me. And he gave me like this. It was so sad. Like, he looked so sad for me, and I was just like, oh, this. I felt humiliated and embarrassed. And then I saw in his eyes that he wasn't trying to do that. He felt some real sorrow for me. And then the person that I was with, who I was getting drugs from, he said that I wasn't doing that, and he was just there, and they were his, and it was his fault, and he took the blame. And they took him to jail. He was a friend. They took him to jail, and they gave me a ticket, which is what they do in California for drug stuff. I got a ticket. And
Wow.
I was left, and they took all the drugs that were in the car, and it was just me and my dog, and we were sitting there at this gas station in Castaic in the middle of the night, and I was like, okay, so it's all gone. Like, all the drugs are gone. I didn't have anything on me, and I didn't have any money. I had gas, and I had dog food for Lucky, and we just drove. We just drove away, and I just knew that if I didn't buy any more drugs, that we would be okay. I didn't know how. I didn't know what was going to happen, and like, I felt angels. I I've always felt presence of angels. I didn't for a long time when I was high, but I started praying a few months ago again, like really praying. And I just felt it. I felt like it was going to be okay. And so a couple days went by, and it felt ugly, and I was scared and paranoid, and I hadn't been off drugs in a long time. And then my sister called, Debbie called. And so we went to Ventura, and I was a total mess. And everything of mine felt tainted. Like all of this stuff, like I had so much stuff. I don't, when you're on meth, you collect, like it's like garbage. I had like trash cans of garbage, like suitcases filled with garbage. And nothing made sense. And everything was dirty. Um, and I just remember looking at all my things and being like, all of this stuff has the same energy on it. Like, remember the first time I took a salt bath and I was like putting frankincense and essential oils in the salt bath, and I was like viewing it as like an exorcism. I was going to just keep cleaning myself. And I got out of the bath and I saw all my stuff and I was like, okay, I have to get rid of all of this. So I went through every single thing that I had, and whatever it made me feel, if it was something that I had bought with my own money, and that I valued, then I would keep. But most of it was stuff that I had found or I had been given, or it was, money from domination, that felt like dark money to me. Didn't make me feel good. So I got rid of everything and I just started over. And I started reprogramming my brain. Like at that point, I didn't have any money to do any energy work with anyone else, but I listened to a lot of things online, and I would hypnotize myself over and over, and I would do guided visualizations, and I started meditating, and I could only meditate for like a minute and a half. I remember having the Insight timer going, and I remember like feeling like I was going to explode and looking down at it had only been like 45 seconds.
Wow. Wow.
So hard.
Yes.
Yeah, but I started using sound. I started using sound right away, and I started using chanting and prayers, like the Violet Flame prayer, I would say hundreds of times to go to sleep, because I felt like I was riddled and infested with lower energetic entities. I felt like that because, I mean, as a dominatrix, I dealt with a lot of people who had a lot of trauma and sexual abuse as children, and they would come to see a dominatrix to reenact those traumas. I thought that it was helpful when I first started, and I thought, oh, we're working through people's issues and trauma. And then I realized, no, we're ingraining this abuse in them, as, and it's becoming the only thing that they can feel. Like they're never going to have a regular sexual relationship that feels fulfilling and loving to them, because this is the most powerful thing. And so I'm actually doing harm. And I didn't know that for a long time. Like that may seem silly to people, but because it feels like as a dominatrix, you're doing harm. But I thought I was helping people for a long time. And I felt like I was helping myself. But the intention was all like, it was weird. It was a weird energetic exchange. So I picked up a lot of stuff in those environments, especially because I was on drugs and I was not balanced, and I was so open, and just accepting all of these entities that probably feed off of that kind of environment, power exchange, pain, pleasure.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, gosh, it's funny. It's like you don't really realize people don't really realize those things exist. Like those companies exist. Like they actually exist, and there's really a lot of like sickness and darkness in the world. And gosh, the tunnel that we can travel down can be really scary. And I'm so proud of you. And I mean, it seems like you did a lot of like you envisioned getting better, and you were doing anything you could to get there. And how far are you willing to work for what you want? That's what's going through my head lately. It's like how much work would you like to do to get where you're going? And that seems like it's like a real mind over matter what you've done for yourself. And it was time. And I mean, you're obviously you're not like that now. You're not doing drugs or smoking cigarettes or,
No, not
so,
even smoking a cigarette. No, not even. I don't drink. I don't do any of that. I can't. It doesn't, I like, so I tried to get clean when I was younger too, in my 20s, and I didn't want to stop. I felt like I was never going to stop. I was going to do this for the rest of my life. Um, and then when something changed in me, and I was just like, I knew that I couldn't go on like that anymore. And the obsession, they always say the obsession to use has been lifted. Totally, the obsession to use was lifted. Like it was hard for me. I felt like my brain was damaged. I had a stutter for a while. I couldn't, my first waitressing job when I first got out, I couldn't figure out whether to bring people a menu or bring them water or bring them a drink, or like I couldn't put things in order. It was really confusing. And I would have panic attacks in public and my brain was a mess.
Oh,
But I healed really fast. And I and you're right, I visualized I would the night before every night I would sit in bed and I would say all these prayers like so many times. And then I would write out what I wanted the next day to feel like. Um,
oh,
and and it would always feel like that. Like, I mean, not specifics like, and this happened to me, and this happened to me, but I would say, I am going to wake up, I'm going to sleep deeply and peacefully, I'm going to heal in my sleep. And when I wake up, I'm going to feel energetic and filled with love and gratitude. And I would, and I did that over and over and over again. And then I started sending that to other people. And I started realizing when I started sending that to other people, I felt it even more. Like the more I
wow.
prayed and the more I blessed others and visualized them at their highest state, the faster I was healing and the faster I was moving through this. Not that fast
Wow.
is better, but you know, sometimes I want it to be. Sometimes I wish things were faster. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Did you ever try any kind of program or anything to get clean, or this was solely just on yourself by yourself, or how?
yeah. So no, the first time I did, I went into a rehab and then I did 12-step NA, and that failed miserably, not because of them, because I wasn't ready. This last time I did it by myself at first. And then I started going because of that ticket that I got for
Yeah.
paraphernalia. I had to go to 168, the weird number, 168 NA meetings, and I love that. And I went wholeheartedly. And I did it as many times as possible. Um, I found that NA is a great tool for a lot of people, and it wasn't, I felt a little uncomfortable in the rooms, and I felt like a lot of time I didn't like identifying as an addict. I didn't like saying, my name is Kelly and I'm an addict, because I didn't feel like that. I felt like saying that was putting power in those words, and identifying as that was holding me in that space. I heard someone say once, my name is so and so and I'm a grateful recovering addict, and I was like, oh, that sounds great, you know. So I started playing around with words, and that was when I realized how powerful words were. um
Wow.
and then someone, you know, they have the moment of silence, right? They're like a moment of silence for the addict that's still on the streets, the addict that's still suffering. And it would be like 20 seconds, you know?
Yeah.
That's all they could handle. And I remember the first time I wanted it, it went a little longer. And I was like, oh, this feels so good to be quiet with a group of people. Like,
Mm.
oh, and then I thought, oh, that's meditating with a group of people. And so I said that a few times in meetings, like, I wish we could meditate more, and people would laugh. And then somebody came up to me and told me about refuge recovery meetings, which is a Buddhist-based recovery meeting. That's phenomenal. It's so helpful. You don't identify as anything unless you want to. And it approaches all addictions, you know, because addictions are a symptom of a problem, right? Like, it's not the end all. It's not, you're not just an addict. I know they say addiction is a disease. I don't believe that. I think that addiction is a symptom of a greater problem. There is a lack of connection with the heart, and there's trauma, and there is things that we're not accessing, that we're not aware of. And no barking. And once you solve the addiction, the drug addiction thing, solve it. You know, once you work with the addiction thing, it just comes out in other ways. Like, it came out for me in food, and came out for me in emotions. So like, I found myself putting myself in situations where I was getting angry and reacting to certain people, like drawing relationships to me, in which I could enact this drama that would feed my adrenaline, and keep me all pumped up, because, you know, like, I
Mm.
like to get high, right? So, and that was making me sick. Yeah. So, but the Buddhist-based recovery, I highly recommend it. It's beautiful. It feels more in alignment to me. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah. It's nice to feel like a little piece of you was like home in your heart when you started to do that meditation, right? It seems like,
Yeah.
yeah, and I'm so glad that you found your way there. And now look at you, you're teaching other people, and
I
you're
love it.
just being you, you know, and you do some sound healing with your voice too. And Yeah, for whoever's listening, we're gonna post her Instagram and everything so you can hear. And I just could listen to you all day. And you play the accordion too, right? Like,
Well, I play the harmonium.
oh,
It's similar.
harmonium.
It's
Okay.
the same thing. It's just an Indian. It has a keyboard. It's like a little mini piano with a pump. I play a lot of different instruments lately, and it feels really good. Yeah, I mean that's been the biggest healing for me is taking that training that I had as a kid that was so hard and so difficult for me to stick with and didn't feel very heart centered. I didn't know that it felt like practice, right? And turning that into like a healing modality, like um music has become super devotional for me. I learned that through ayahuasca ceremonies, and my voice has been the strongest healer for me, and apparently other people too. It because I'm singing from my heart and it feels really emotional, it activates something in their heart and it usually brings some emotion up for people, which is wonderful, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So, so healing in so many ways. Like all you have to do is listen and be present, right? Like
Yeah.
you don't really have to concentrate on anything or you just listen.
Oh, no striving, no trying. You're just letting it flow through you and open, and it's beautiful. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Kelly. So, gosh, there's so many things that I want to ask you. So, what do you think one of some of your best moments are recently in recent years that you can pinpoint? You know, any kind. I mean, we've gone to the worst now. Now,
I know.
I
We,
want to
we
think
look
about.
good.
Yeah, what are some of your best moments where you're like aha moments? Like, wow. I mean,
There's so many.
yeah.
There's like every day there's something. I try and make it a point to focus on that. But I remember in the very beginning when I first got clean and I was really struggling and I was trying so hard to be optimistic and positive and saying all these prayers. And I remember um feeling grateful for the first time. Like and when I say for the first time, I mean like I don't remember ever feeling grateful in my life before that. Like I was a spoiled kid. I got a lot of things from my family, and we had money growing up, and I didn't have to want for anything. I don't ever remember. I mean, I'm sure maybe there was a time, but honestly, I don't remember ever feeling a gratitude, heartfelt experience in a moment for anything until one day when I was walking with Lucky, and we were in a park by my sister's house, and the clouds in the sky in Ventura are so beautiful, and it was so blue, and there was that sea breeze blowing on us, and we were walking around, and she was so happy, and she was so like carefree, and this dog had been with me through the worst situations, and part of the reason I wanted to get clean was so she could just have a backyard and like not have to protect me and like just be her cute little self. And we were having this beautiful moment, and I remember looking at the sky and just feeling it for a minute, like feeling the sun on my skin and feeling the wind on my body and not feeling scared for the first time. And
Mm.
and how beautiful everything was. Like everything looked beautiful, everybody around me. And then I remembered like I wouldn't be seeing this beauty if I didn't have it inside of me. So that was like the first time I experienced like, oh, I'm changing. I'm expanding because I'm able to see beauty. I could
Yeah.
never see beauty before. Like I was always seeing scary things. And that was the first time. And so kind of like finding beauty in all of these things and feeling grateful became like a prayer for me, like falling asleep every night and saying like, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And feeling it in my heart um, was something that I started doing. And then my first sound bath experience where I was a couple months clean and I went to the sound bath and he did that transformational breathing, the 2-part inhale and the single exhale. And it's a trauma release breath. And his name is Damien. He's a spectacular sound bath musician. I do a lot of things that he did. I learned from him. And I did the breath work and I was like, all these thoughts started coming up in my head like, you don't need to do this. This is stupid. Why are you wasting your time? And like then all these limiting beliefs and then all this negative, mean self-talk that I have stored in there. And he just kept saying like, you're going to feel resistance. Like if you're hearing those voices, keep going. There's some kind of gift on the other side of it. So I just kept doing it. And he just kept saying, just say I love you to yourself. Say I love you to yourself. So I just kept saying I love you to myself over and over again. And I kept doing the breath work. And then this heat welled up in me that was like nothing I'd ever felt before. And my body started twitching and shaking. And I burst out in these sobs that were like, I mean, they were, I don't even know where they came from, but it was so much pain. And I didn't have a story associated with it, but my body was moving it through. It looked like, I felt like I was having a seizure.
Yeah.
And nobody, I mean, he was watching me. He wasn't concerned. Like this was, for me, it was very weird. That was the first time it happened. And it went on for like 30 minutes and it was exhausting and my body hurt so bad. And then it passed. And as soon as it, as quickly as it hit me, it went away just as fast. And then I was in this state of like euphoric
Wow.
ecstasy, like this bliss, this calm that I'd never felt before. And it was golden and it was beautiful. And I was seeing beautiful colors and I felt like I left my body. And the sound started coming back in, his beautiful sound. And then he played the flute. And I remember hearing that double barrel Native American flute. And I was like, oh my God, like it was just so beautiful. But that first experience, which was what led me to do what I do now, I had never experienced anything like it. And I went every month to his sound bath for 3 years. And every single time I went, I had the same experience, a little not as long each time. After about, the second year, I started like having more joy in the experience and less pain, but it took a really long time. And I didn't get any of that kind of healing from talk therapy. Not that that isn't helpful. It's super helpful. But I think because my mind was so confused about what had
Yeah.
happened to me and the drugs and all that stuff, I don't think I was able to understand how to heal things from memory, and working through it, processing it. I had to just heal it
Hmm.
with my body. So those moments are beautiful for me. I love the
Yeah.
painful, beautiful opening of healing. I love it. Um, those have been lovely. I mean, I teach a meditation class on Tuesday and Thursday mornings, and the other day we had like, it's small, just a small group. And there was like 6 of us in this room, and I was playing my little Shruti box, which is like a harmonium, sounds like a harmonium. So sounds like an accordion, strong vibration. And we were all humming together. And the room got so strong. The vibration was so strong. I could feel it against my body. And we were just in like kind of singing and vibrating as one being. It felt like one big, beautiful vibration. And it was so amazing. And I just felt like, wow, like this is wild. Like I
Yeah.
get to be a part of this experience. Like I get to be with these people right now who all they want to do is send love to the world and work on their heart. And that's amazing. So being a part of those experiences just feeds everything for me. It makes up, there's no making up. I mean,
Yeah.
it adds to just the depth of feeling in my heart. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gosh, you just come so far. And I mean, it's not easy, right? None of that was easy. And um, there's a
No.
sense of grief, right? Of your other life and, losing Sean and
Yeah.
just, I mean, the depth that you can sit here and tell me a story, but it's to experience it is really like, wow. Like, and I just, I don't know how many people make it out alive, and gosh, you're meant to do this. And so can you just, I have like, again, I have like so many questions, but can you tell me a little bit about like your daily work that you do on yourself, like your self-care?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I know you do that. Yeah, I know.
um, okay, so I wake up, I wake up to the sound of my beautiful dog Sunny, who's right back there,
Hi,
going
Sun.
like grumpy and mad at me because I'm not out of bed, probably at like 5:30. Um, and after I deal with her for a little bit and give her lots of love and cuddles, she's a trauma baby also, by the way. We heal each other. I sit down and I do a morning meditation. And I do an opening to the day prayer. I got into this idea that every day, like every time we go to sleep, um like it's a death, right? So we're dying to that day. So I love this idea, right? And so then we wake up in the morning, it's a rebirth every day. So every day we get a new chance, another chance to create whatever we want, and to react however we want, and to choose the choices that are in alignment for us. And so sometimes I do great and sometimes I fumble, but I start with this prayer, and it's like I really try and feel it in my heart. Like when we pray and when you feel it in your body, how powerful that is. You're a great prayer. And so I do this prayer and I kind of call on the elements, and I call on Mother Earth and Father Sky and all of the, and God and all the different names. I use every possible name because who knows, it's all one. And then I send blessings out to everyone that pops in my mind. So whoever I see in my mind, I spend a moment like sending them things, and I say this out loud. And this usually lasts for like 15 minutes. It's a long thing. And then I meditate and I do some singing and chanting. And that gets me in line every single day. The chanting does. I do some Kundalini yoga, so there's more breath work and so more movement. And then I go to the beach with Sunny and I put my feet in the ocean and I say the prayers again. And I open myself up to opportunity and to possibility. And I'm constantly affirming the kind of life that I want to have, or that I'm having.
Yeah.
I notice that when I do that, that's what I end up experiencing. And it's as simple as just stating, like, I am here right now. I am clear. I am radiating love. I am in my heart. And saying those things makes it so it is happening, like it's wild to me. Like I used to say them and it felt like I was faking it before, but now when I say them, I can tap into that feeling of, oh, I'm making this happen. I'm creating this right now.
Wow.
So, and then, I do a variety of different things, and I have to do breath work all day long. So when I'm at my computer and I'm doing office work, even though it is a beautiful place to do it, and I love the things that we create, it's still sitting in a computer sometimes, and that's hard, right? So I do a lot of breath work while I'm doing the computer work, and I do a lot of gratitude prayers, and I do a lot of earthing. A lot of earthing. Anytime I can get on the earth, I do it. I journal a lot. I sing a lot. I hum in the car. Sometimes I scream in the car when I need to get that out, which is, every few days.
Huh.
Yeah, and lately I've been in a little bit of fear. Like I'm having that surgery in 2 weeks, and also that surgery represents a lot to me because that's my womb, right? And
Yeah. Can you tell us what it is? I
yeah,
may
so
feel comfortable.
it's okay. I'm comfortable with it. I'm having a hysterectomy and they're taking out my fallopian tubes, and my womb has been wounded for so many years. And since my early 20s, maybe a little bit before that, I've always had painful periods and lots of bleeding and um, lots of miscarriages and yeah, abortions, and all of the things as an addict that I went through, trying to, I don't know, trying to kind of hurt my body. Like I didn't know, it wasn't intentional, but I was not nice to my womb, and I punished myself. And I'm not saying this to say that I'm blaming myself for what's happening now. But I am saying that my womb took a lot of that burden. And she is tired and she is inflamed, and she's held a lot of grief and fear for me my whole life. Um, and it's time to let her go. And so I've been working through that and feeling into that. Like it feels very sad to me, but it also feels like it's time and it's the right thing to do. So I'm going to honor that in a beautiful way. Um, and I'm kind of excited about that transformation and to see what that opens for me and how I feel.
Yeah. It's nice that you're referring to it as a she. I like that. I like that because it's, when I used to do Reiki, it reminds me, I used to do Reiki. You're making me tear up. I used to have the person was on the table and all of a sudden I'd start seeing their organs like in my mind, like they had like a face and they had like a
Yeah.
personality. And I used to say like, hey, I think that, okay, I'm going to ask what it needs. What does it need?
Yeah.
And I'd say, oh, I think your liver needs water. It's very thirsty. And then I'd see like a little smile, like smile in my mind. It was like, oh, it's like shaping like a face that wants to, our organs want us to talk to them, and
Yes.
that's so
Yes.
great. And I'm doing like a little, maybe you can do like a little ritual or say goodbye and honor what
Yeah.
it's given you and the lessons. I mean, it's just so spiritual and I mean connected. I'm
Yeah. The funny, it's not funny, but I'm using that word. The funny thing is that uh, I started learning all these things, like I just forgot his name. It doesn't matter, but he does all the meditations, and he does.
Did Joe Dispenza? No.
Yes, thank you. Of course,
Oh, oh,
I knew you would get
Dr.
it. I
Joe.
thought I was trying to think it in my mind to see if you would get it because I couldn't remember. So he does the blessing of the chakras, right? He does that meditation, and if you go through each one of your chakras and you tell them I love you, and I had a real hard time with this for a long time because I had a lot of self-loathing and I did not love myself and I felt like my self-worth was not there. I didn't respect myself. I didn't for years and years and years, right? So as I was healing myself and I realized, oh, self-forgiveness is the thing that I need to work on. I could do all of my chakras and my throat was really difficult. My sacral, I couldn't do it. I would do it and I would feel I would feel like I was lying. I felt I had the hardest time with my womb and it took me a long time to work through that. And I think it's so wild and so amazing that that's the part of my body that's sick. Like that's, like out of all of the things, out of all the drugs I did, I am super healthy everywhere else. Like I had everything checked because there were all these, I felt like there was something terrible going on. Um,
Yeah, sure.
it's my womb and it's my womb. And that's the place that I couldn't learn to love easily. Like I have been lately, the last couple months, but it took this situation to get me to be able to open to that, which is interesting, right?
It's interesting. Yeah. I mean, you're talking about it, and it's like what's going through my mind is like a dying human, like a friend or a parent or somebody
Yeah.
who's in your life and they're about to die, and you know that the sickness is coming to an end, their body, their garment's going to die, and your your transformation with that person is almost sped up. And it's like, okay, I got to tell you one last thing. Well, they said, oh, I want to tell you one last thing. It's going back and forth, and you're sort of having that relationship with your womb is just so a great transformation in itself, right?
Yeah, I got goosebumps. Yeah. Yeah, that's what it feels like. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
really powerful. And I I think that's so cool that you're doing that and just having that sort of relationship right now that you can before she goes. And and I'll check in with you again later. But can you tell me really quickly, gosh, what is a good chant, like an easy chant that somebody can do for like to help them move through whatever they need? I mean, could you
Yeah.
share? I don't know. Maybe that's a good question. Yeah.
No, there's a few. I mean, okay. My mind, at first I was like, oh, I got one, and then it went to like a bunch.
Yeah.
So the best, easiest, not best. They're all beautiful. The easiest chant to start with is Om, just Om. Um,
Okay.
and because you're creating, I mean, they all base from that pretty much. It's that vibration, that Om. And as you do it, you feel the vibration run through your body. You can also just start with humming. It's the same thing. A hum is almost the same as Om. That's a good opening one that's a somatic practice to open up your body. You can feel the vibration move through your body. And just doing that for like 2 to 3 minutes, or if, you can I have different apps on my phone that create different tones and I do it with them when I'm driving. It's not the best when you're driving because you can go into a trance, but but, but sometimes I like to live a little dangerously still. So there's that. The one that I really loved when I first got clean and I just started doing again in my meditation practice is Om Mani Padme Hum. You know,
Oh,
I'm sure you've heard that before. Yeah.
yeah. I
Um,
think that was the first one I ever learned was the Om Mani Padme Hum. So,
right? Yeah. It's beautiful. So that
and
means that's like from darkness to light. That's like the jewel is found in the darkness. Like that's and it's like the path of like a lotus flower, right? So they is from what I've read, is that the seed is in the mud and they grow through the mud, they grow through the darkness, and then they come out so beautiful into the light. And that is our path. And that I resonate with that. Um, and that one is beautiful. And we do it as a group in my meditation class, and it makes me so happy when we're all singing it together. And you can just say it. You can say it, you can sing it, you can do whatever you want. It's the vibration again, like it's the Om Mani Padme Hum. You want to keep that hum as long as you can, and then you inhale deep. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Yeah, just a long, beautiful vibration. Um,
beautiful.
it feels so good. And then there's a Kundalini tune in, that everybody does at the beginning of Kundalini class.
Tell
Om,
us.
hmm?
Go ahead, tell us. I'm
Oh, okay.
sorry.
It's Ong, like ONG, Ong. So you're hitting your tongue against the roof of your mouth. It's very nasally. Ong Namo, 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 Guru Dev Namo. So we do it really crazy. We can do it like Om Namo Guru Dev Namo.
I love it.
Um,
Oh, I love this.
that one's beautiful. That one is also another from darkness to light. It's it's like infinite wisdom, like I am my own creator. I'm forgetting the exact translation of it, but like the divine is in me type of thing. Some of my Kundalini friends are going to get mad at me right now because I forgot, I forgot it,
Oh,
but they're beautiful, right? And I mean, that's kind of a wild one when you open up your space with that, and it's a powerful, everybody does it together, and I always giggle a little bit because it sounds so wild, but they feel good in your body. It's been lovely doing chanting.
yeah. Thank you so much for sharing your voice with us. I love that.
Yeah.
So, but where can people find you if they want to find you online? Is it mostly
Yeah,
Instagram?
I still, I've been trying to do a website forever and I just can't get to it. So it's just Instagram and I'm Facebook, and then um yeah, and that's why I put all my offerings on there and all the different little things that are weekly or monthly. And yeah, I'm always active in Ventura. There's always things going on in Ventura and Ojai. So yeah.
Okay. And what is your Instagram name?
It's at Kelly Jeans Lucky.
At Kelly Jeans with an S, Lucky.
Yeah,
Okay.
because it was like referring to my dog Lucky, like she's mine, Kelly
Yeah.
Jeans Lucky. Yeah. It's
Okay.
a
Well,
play on words, yeah.
so much. Well, thank you so much today for sharing your story. And it's super inspiring. And I just love watching you grow and just all the things. And I'm just grateful that you're alive and well and helping humanity and everybody else. So thank you, Kelly. Do you have any other last words you want us to share?
No, I just want to say I love you and just how beautiful this is that you have created this offering and all of the things that you're creating you've blossomed into this beautiful sparkly. I mean, we always had that, but like you're really just like you've stepped up so much into this leading and guiding other people, and your gifts are so beautiful and so profound, and I just love that. So makes me really happy that we've had this and that we've come back into each other's lives so strongly. I love that. It makes me very happy.
Me too. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah,
Well, we'll see you soon then, and I'll can't wait to share you with people and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
I love you.
I love
Bye.